We start in the aftermath of what looks like a standard Tuesday night after a total bender with Charlie Sheen, as a Bermuda sheriff and his deputy walk around confused on a beach and surrounded by dead pussy, before confronting what looks like yet another standard evening for Charlie Sheen by realising someone's gone and locked a pussy in their cupboard after having sucked a woman dry.
Sounds about right.
Anyway, after the Egyptian-themed opening titles, newly relocated high school student Charles Brady does some emo self-harming whilst fawning over his sexy crush Tanya in the yearbook, before going downstairs to calm down his mama called Mary, who's weirdly frustrated by the local cat outsmarting a deadly trap they set out for it, by having a sweet dance around the kitchen.
Aww.
Before stocking her face off and taking his own mum upstairs to bed.
What the hell did I just watch?
Anyway, we're then introduced to that hot totty Tanya bird IRL, doing a bit of boogieing herself whilst working the late shift in a local cinema, before being given a little fright by Charlie Boy, who promptly works his charm on her and tells her he's new to the area and totally her new classmate and shit. He then returns home to his mama wife to once again calm her down, given yet another moggy has outsmarted their attempts to kill him horrifically in bear traps because reasons, before moaning about how bloody hungry she is. Cause turns out they're some sort of shape-shifting supernatural creatures what conduct vicious hate crimes on innocent felines and also eat virgins. And poor Tanya's next on the menu.
Oh shit, not good.
The next day, Charlie's unnecessarily aggressive teacher Mr. Fallows develops an instant dislike of his new student. Well, after Chaz humiliates him in front of the class by reminding him about how a box actually has 6 sides instead of 4, and so he naturally develops a vendetta and sets about looking into his dodgy past and stuff. Meanwhile, Charlie gives his virgin bae a ride home and promptly charms her mum, who just can't believe her daughter's first date has been arranged to be at a graveyard where she can, quote, practice her photography skills, because she reckons that sounds like some sort of modern day teen slang or BS euphemism or some shit. Anyway, on the way home, that vengeful Mr. Fallows bloke interrupts Charlie's journey to expose his phony fakey backstory and false transfer documents, and boasts about how he's totally going to grass him up to the authorities. Cause calling him out in front of the entire class about how he's a grown man and still ain't learned his shapes just ain't fucking on, son. So naturally, Charlie just snaps his hand off and hands it back to him, before chasing him into a small forest and having an early dinner. Elsewhere, a chocolatey incel copper is busy celebrating the closest thing that he's ever had to pussy inside his ride, before Charlie speeds past in his shiny blue motor, and so he equally speeds off after him to get an easy win. But he's soon rocked to his core when his pet cat Clovis rudely snarls at the naughty criminal and his whole face transmorphs into Jeff Bezos because reasons. Because this guy really doesn't like felines about as much as this movie doesn't like decent dialogue.
Stop looking at me. Stop looking at me, you fucking cat!
After falling victim to illusion powers, and thus losing sight of the naughty shape-shifting criminal who had just bought the rights to James Bond given Amazon did so well adapting Rings of Boredom last year, the poor cop has to go back to the station to report on how he just got given the slip by some sort of baldy cat monster what irrationally hates other cats but seems to love speeding and porking his own mum. Or some shit. And before they can say, well, if they're giant cats themselves, why do they hate and fear other smaller cats? Charlie gets home and immediately suffers a dose of domestic abuse when his mother floozy smacks him up real good and proper for not forcing himself on that sweet virginal teenager already. Cause she needs to feast on strangers' life energy to sustain herself.
This is on you! This is on you!
But he just says, it ain't my fault, mum, cause the local plod caught me doing 90 miles an hour on a small road and probably set his pussy on me. So he just promises to go and get her some grub so they can totally move on already, now the cops have exposed their secret and he also ate a man out in the woods but not in a good way. And after even more cute kitties gather outside their gaff, presumably just to taunt them and watch them engage in supernatural incesty intercourse, we cut to the next morning, where Tanya drops by the house and meets his little whore mummy what touches his no-no place every night.
Disgusting!
She then makes passive-aggressive comments and veiled threats, while savouring an early taste of their next intended meal, as later in the cemetery, the lovebirds arrive to have a morbid picnic next to a bunch of long-dead corpses, but first stop to vigorously rub some hard wood. Just steady. But unfortunately, Charlie Boy can't control himself after all that shrub rubbing foreplay, and soon forces himself on a minor to suck out her juices. And she just can't believe the uber cute perfect new boy in town with a fake backstory and falsified papers would turn out to be a total wrong'un. and soon ends up having to fight for her life, armed with just a spunky can-do attitude and a random corkscrew. Luckily, she totally gouges his eye out with said corkscrew, and bringing a whole new meaning to being blinded by love. But also, unfortunately, that barely slows him down, so she just drops a corkscrew and runs off like a riot yak. And before you can say, why drop your only weapon when you know Psycho Pussy Demon is after you, the chocolatey cop arrives to totally save the day. Huzzah! Unfortunately, he takes too long trying to calm her down and assure her everything's going to be okay, despite already knowing he's up against deadly supernatural fiends, and probably gets a pencil jammed in his ear for his troubles.
That's what you get! That's what you fucking get, bitch!
And it looks like it's curtains for the #1 virgin popcorn seller with killer dance moves. But luckily, the chocky copper shoots him in the back to stop all the naughty raping. But a cap in his arse also doesn't slow him down, and he promptly suffers a fatal dose of his own medicine, which just fucking enrages that moody moggy, as Charlie soon finds himself fending off a ferocious pussy attack. And before you could say, last time I suffered one of those I lost my house in the divorce, Tanya jumps in the motor and radios for help, whilst the cowardly cat boy soon gets the heck out of Dodge. Later, he returns home to be patched up by Mummy, and swiftly tells her all about how he just got beat up by a 10-inch cat and totally ganged up on by 2 raging pussies. But she just says, stop waffling on about being more cucked than current day Destiny and turn yourself invisible already, given the cops will be here any minute now that Virgin Bird is likely grassing us all up and stuff. But turns out he don't have the strength to do even that, and totally reckons he's dying after getting ferociously mauled by a black man's moggy. And no, that ain't some kind of euphemism neither. LOL! So after the cops indeed turn up outside, she summons the last of her energy to hide themselves and their property. Whilst elsewhere, the deputy gets busy scoffing his face with corn on the cob, given he's been tasked with babysitting a traumatised assault victim who almost had her juices sucked out her front hole by a handsome man, but not in a good way. But unfortunately, she doesn't get much time to rest and recover, because her once would-be mother-in-law soon turns up and starts smacking up local law enforcement and also her parents. And not even the corn-fed hero copper can save her now, given he seems to have trained at the same academy as the fucking stormtroopers and can't hit a stationary target literally 3 feet in front of him. No! So she just stabs him in the back with a corn cob, which somehow penetrates all the way through to his spine and totally kills him, and then straight up defenestrates the mother of her son's lover and intended meal ticket. So naturally, all the cats in the neighbourhood soon assemble like fucking Avengers, and the cavalry of kitties head on over to the werecat's cabin place, where she's dragged a kidnapped Tanya to and promptly one-shots a wannabe hero, who quickly finds out how naive and fatal main character syndrome can really be.
You're not that guy, pal, trust me, you're not that guy. Okay.
Anyway, once back inside, Mary tries to feed her to a dying toy boy son. But he don't want no stinking blue-collar minimum wage earning cinema assistant for his supper, so instead just tries to dance with her for some reason. And once transmorphed into his original form, she just fatally gouges out his other eye, as the sheriff bursts into the sight of some pussy-on-pussy action, but of course, not in a fun way. Lame. As a whole heap of moggies soon burst into the gaff and totally demand snuggles with that milfy redhead what loves a bit of incest on the side.
Didn't become a little bit of a slag. I became a total slag.
And after going full Man of Steel and snapping some pussy old necks, she also reverts to her OG form and chases them outside, where she impales the local sheriff on a middle-class white picket fence and probably gets swarmed again by cats, given they seem to take offence to murdering innocent sheriffs when there's a simple democratic process to totally recall and remove them, and immediately overwhelm this dangerous threat to democracy, who then somehow spontaneously combust to death.
Weird.
And we end with poor Tanya barely surviving the night with little Clovis, and mainly by just getting super lucky. But luckily, not getting lucky in that way, and thankfully still retaining her sweet V-plates, yo.
Nice.
And that's it, that's the movie. Though my favourite part was Mark Hamill's random cameo in the opening scene as the Bermuda sheriff, quickly followed by the world's most gratuitous writer cameo, which was then followed by the most gratuitous genre cameos, as a handful of cinema's most iconic horror directors assembled to do this movie's director a favour, with 2 even appearing in a graveyard with horror author Stephen King to perform an entirely pointless waste of screen time because reasons.
Don't waste my motherfucking time!
But anyway, That's a plot and that's your lot. Considering that bell thing so you don't miss any future recaps. Tell me if you like this flick in the comments if you have time, and I'll do unspeakable things with my own mum with you in the next one.